Fair. I got it. All right, we're recording. So now watch what you say.
Welcome back.
All right, let me get this up. Oh, and the last one just
Wow, look
been
at
downloading.
you. Yeah, I went and got another pair of Cheez-Its. Sorry.
Attaboy. All right, Max, you got cut off answering that last question, and now we have all the time in the world.
All right. Well,
Awesome.
You know, don't
that'll
who
be
wants to hang out
extremely
with their family?
verbose.
Who wants to hang out with their family? Let's hang out together.
Video
All right,
three
here we
coming
go.
up.
Max,
Yeah.
take it
So
away.
anyway, basically, just to Logan's question, if I was purchasing the vans again, like I think that they're really smart for our setup because the vehicles go home with the employees, and we just try to optimize for really simple services where all the equipment they need for the most part is in the vehicle. So that works, but the high top vans are a little more versatile because they can haul more debris than the small ones. The advantages of the small ones, though, is that some employees live in apartment buildings here and there's only underground parking. And so you can get those ones in there pretty easily, whereas the bigger ones, they wouldn't actually fit. So, anyway, my one recommendation for something I'm reading is Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. And that's a really great book. It's pretty heavy, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it in like a busier time. You do need to focus on it, but it's really interesting because it just talks about like common flaws in thinking. And obviously, as we're owning businesses, one of our main roles is decision making. And so if we're able to make better decisions, that's always helpful. And there's stuff in there like about marketing and like just about how consumers can think as well and how to be more persuasive. So that's helpful. But I think mostly for myself, I'm just enjoying learning more about how people think.
Gotcha.
Hey,
And
Max, I got a question for you.
go ahead, Connor.
So I think Lee was telling me that you probably have one of the largest service areas, like population inside your service area. Like you may have like 600,000 something people within your
Yeah.
5 mile radius and Lee was telling me mine was similar around like that 250, 300,000 within our service radius. Is that kind of why you want to just have like one location? Because real estate in Canada is so difficult, or because your service radius already includes so many people? I'm referencing that video that you had with Liz, where you're like, oh well, maybe we'll just have like a $5 million location over time, because that's just is that just because of your situation in Canada, or is that because of something else? Like that's just what you want. You don't want multiple locations.
Yeah, well, so there's the side of just having like a huge amount of people to market to, and it is probably like around 600,000, or it could be more, because technically our service area is like half of Vancouver proper. It's all of Burnaby, it's all of New Westminster, and so those different cities have quite a few people in them, and they'll continue to grow. So there's that, and then the other reality is that there are already franchisees all around me. So there's like Coquitlam, which is to my east, and then there's the west end of Vancouver, which is to my west, and then there's Delta, which is to my south. So there's like some other cities around here, but there's already franchisees in most of the cities, and there'll probably be more just because there are a decent amount of people living here. So I think if I wanted to start another location, it would have to be elsewhere, and it wouldn't be as close, which would be harder to manage. So that's kind of the main thing. I mean, obviously, our model has to be different because of the scarcity of land, and that's why we do have vans that go home with the employees rather than actual shop space. Like we just
What is it?
like
80% of your population lives within 20% of Canada.
Oh yeah. In general, yeah, in Canada, yeah, that's true, and it's just different in the States too because like in Canada, like in terms of the major cities, they're like few and far between. And so like in British Columbia, you've got like the Lower Mainland and Vancouver, which is kind of the main hub. And then in Alberta, you'd have like Calgary and Edmonton. Like each province just has like one or two major cities, to be honest. And then there's like rural communities, but it's just a different market than the States.
Cool. Very good. Thanks, Max. I'm gonna have to watch the recording from the first one for Bryce and Max, so expect a text from me for questions later. But Kyle, I believe that you are next, and so you are up, sir. Take it away, and thank you, Max, for sharing.
All right, hey fellas. Let's see. This year we are better at getting employees. I've got 2 employees going now, which is 2 more than I had last year. So the question about being in the field or not, this year I'm not in the field pushing the mowers, but I'm still doing the estimates. And part of that is because I'm trying to give the guys all the work I can. I'm running a lot slower than all of you guys. Just trying to ramp up my speed and my method, because I'm running a couple other businesses also. So I think we're running about 30-ish budget hours right now between the 2 guys, and needing to push that up more. We've got the first round of every door direct mail going out this May 1st. And we have one of my guys doing door hangers. So 3,000 more door hangers going out this week, next week, somewhere around there. So kind of doing that kind of a push. And so the biggest good thing for us this year was getting the first guy with experience, so that I could say, hey, you know how to mow, you can do all of this. And I gave him the truck. And then the second guy is support, and we kind of send him off to do projects when we need to. But we're trying to stick to as much as we can, recurring mows as well. I try and not even give estimates for projects. Part of it's because I don't have the equipment and the manpower to do many big jobs. I don't have a trailer because we have the ramp rack. So I'm not pouring gravel. I'm not doing bark jobs much. I mean, I've done a few, but you're pulling bark up and down the ramp rack. It's kind of a pain in the ass. So, we're kind of avoiding most of that work. So that's kind of where we are, struggling to get enough work to keep these guys busy. So somebody else was talking about P for P being, almost wish he didn't say anything. We definitely feel the same here. The guy keeps harping on me. He's like, can I get a raise? Because I'm not getting enough budget hours. And I keep saying, it's not exactly how the program works. I didn't control this, so I'm falling back on the Augusta's the kingpin on the rules, and I'm just following them and then enforcing them. So that kind of has a little friction. He even gave me a little bit of an ultimatum. He said, hey, there's another grounds guys and they're hiring at this much. I said, great, go work for them then, I guess.
So you know how many estimates you've sent out this year?
Yeah, we're in the neighborhood of about 40, so not very many.
Cool. And have you thought about, 30 budgeted hours, you're like right on the tipping point of like, should we just get rid of one guy and fill this guy up completely? Or is he not capable of getting the 30 budgeted hours done, so you have to have that extra guy?
The second guy came up because he works in my restaurant and he wants more hours, and I don't have it in the restaurant. So he works for me 2 days a week in the field mowing, and then he's in the restaurant 4 or 5 days a week over there. So I've only got him part-time, and I'm using him to help as support for the first guy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Is the restaurant a new thing? I knew you had the microgreens farm. I don't know anything about the restaurant.
Yeah, that came up this year. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so
you want to go into any of that at all? Like how's the farm doing? What's up with the restaurant? Because like probably a lot of other franchisees are going to see it just so that they know what's going on.
Sure. So I came in, my wife and I run a farm. We grow microgreens, and that's been good for the last 10 years, but we just make everything up as we go, much like a lot of guys that come to Augusta and you bring your business like Logan did, and you convert over. And we said, hey, we don't know how other people run businesses. So we got into a franchise to learn systems and to take methodology from Augusta and put it over in the farm, and then also to diversify our income. So that was good, except that I still do a lot of work on the farm. So I was right off the bat, I knew I was limiting myself on how much I could push hard in Augusta, and I was going to try and go with the general manager model, but I struggled to find a good guy last year, and then I ended up pushing the mower, and then got stuck in kind of the mire of that and not pulling back and rehiring. So this year with the coaching calls with Chuck, that's been our biggest focus, is getting somebody else hired. So I'll still do the estimates as much as I can until they get comfortable, and then we can hopefully send them out to do estimates instead of me. But then I partnered up with somebody else in the restaurant industry, because I've been working with him for 8 or 9 years selling produce, and not exactly consulting, but maybe like this meeting where we're all kind of meeting minds and trying to help each other out. So for years, I was working with him on some of his restaurants, and some partners wanted out on one of them, and we figured it would be a good fit if I would go in there and help him. So in January, I partnered with another guy, and so we have Grants Pass Brewery here in town. So it kind of helps. We figured it would help with diversifying income, of course, but also we can not exactly pass employees around, but we can give support. If we need more hours, for a guy in the restaurant, but we just don't have them, the restaurant's not open any more hours, they might be able to work in the field with us in Augusta, or they can work on the farm. Or if I've got somebody on the farm that's just kind of getting burned out in the greenhouse, but they still want to work with us, we can send them to the restaurant, something like that.
Cool. You had me
So,
at brewery, so anyway.
there you go. You come to town, I'll buy you some beer.
Hey, there you go. Well, hey, I appreciate you
Bud
sharing.
Light.
Yeah, Bud Light only, please.
Okay, sure.
I'm gonna make enemies. So thank you, Kyle. Appreciate it. Anybody else got questions for Kyle? All set? Cool. Brandon and Thomas from Issiquah, the late guys, they think they gotta work until, what is it, 6 o'clock out there? So you guys are up next.
There's a lot to do out here.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet there is.
So I'm late, but so I don't know exactly what the 3 questions are you guys have.
Yeah, so we're just just generally catching everybody up on what's going on in your business. Are you in profit or growth mode? How many trucks you got? How many guys you got? Maybe a goal you have for specifically Issiquah, because that's what you came to the 2021 training with. And then maybe share a difficulty and maybe a word of motivation or a book you're going through. That's a lot. I can go back and go over some of those if you need to.
No, you're good. I guess to start off, like, we're in profit mode now with Issiquah. We were in growth last year. This year we started the year up with probably about 80 clients. I'd say we probably almost doubled that now. Do you think? Yeah, we about doubled that. So we're about probably 160 just mowing clients. We don't do any type of projects or anything like that now. We are currently operating 2 trucks out of the 4 that we had last year. 2 of them one of them, the engine blew, the other one is rusting, and we're trying to see if we can get it fixed. We have 2, 3, there's 4 employees, 3 currently, well, with us included. One employee is currently hurt. She did something to her hamstring, so she's out for a little bit. And then I guess the struggle that we've been dealing with is kind of like a caveat of all those, but most of it is just regarding vehicles. I don't think it's necessarily the work. We've sent out, I think, like over 300 estimates already this year. Our close ratio is about 40 to 50%. I'd probably say right now, like 70 to 80% of the estimates being sent out are mowing. So no struggle on that part, but it's really just been around vehicles. And then obviously cash flow is the biggest thing too, because we do have a decent amount of debt at this location.
So everybody listening knows too, last year when you joined Augusta, did you have any employees before?
No, it was just Brandon and I.
Cool. And no, did I say employees? I meant customers.
Okay. Well, we have 1 customer.
I've been working in the sun all day, dude. I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
So you started the year with no customers. You ended the year with roughly 80 occurring.
So last year our peak was 164.
Okay.
We started with 1, and then we got to 164, and then by the time January hit, we probably were still winter servicing about 70 to 80.
Okay.
And now we've doubled back up to that 160 mark roughly now.
Gotcha. What's your marketing spend?
We're spending about 500 a week.
Okay.
But we've toned that back pretty dramatically. We're more so just doing it to collect people's information for the database. So it's kind of like we're just bleeding the money for marketing wise to get those people, so that when we do hit summertime and a lot of the mowing falls off, we can just send a 1-click, and all those people are anticipating that we're opening back up for summer for projects. So a lot of those people are either waiting or they're knowing that they're going to get an email so that we can fill in those time slots when we do go to bi-weekly for mowing.
Cool. Very good. What's you kind of mentioned the hardest thing you're dealing with right now is trucks. Is there anything else? Employees are not an issue. You got enough to get her done?
Yeah, right now, I mean, we have 2 employees out right now. Like I said, one has a hamstring, and then the other one's been out for about 6 days with some like teeth issues, and so it's been a struggle for the last week. We've had a lot of people just sickness. I'm getting over sickness right now, still getting in the field. So it's definitely a hurdle because we were like, okay, cool, we have capacity. We've got about 30-40% to fill up. And then 2 people got hurt. And now we're trying to kind of float with 2 less people that we thought we had capacity for. So we took on all this mowing. And now we're at like over capacity until we get somebody back into the seat. So
You running hiring ads and looking to gain anybody, or you're just waiting for the guys to get back?
we have one that's coming back tomorrow. So we kind of just needed to float until we're just basically a day behind on mowing. We haven't gotten behind on anything or have to reschedule or cancel or anything because we really focused in on budget hours this year to make sure that we actually are tracking that instead of us just like, oh, let's just throw a job wherever we can and forget budget hours. Like we religiously are going by that 32 budget hour week, situation. Other than mowing right now, we're just taking on everything for mowing. So that's over like probably 40, 45 for all of us that are in the field right now. But for projects and everything, we definitely budgeted that like right around 30, 32, and it's been working out really well if we do have to step in and do projects or whatever.
Cool. Anybody got questions?
How was that going down so cheap in price? Because I listened to your long spiel with some of the other franchise owners over the winter. And that
Yeah.
was like a 4 hour long call, but I listened to mostly every bit of it. So I don't know if you have because we went down from 45 to 40, and now we're starting to do some door hangers at that 39, which is $6, right? Like it's not the end of the world, but it's just like, man, here we are. We're supposed to increase, you think over time, and or actually, like I remember whenever before I was Augusta, my minimum was 50, but I didn't understand the close ratio and some of that other stuff, and so like now I understand why I'm lower, but it's just like what I know you went hardcore on it, and so what was kind of your 2 cents on that? And now you had to fix everything essentially going into this year.
So our biggest thing was mostly last year was just to hit capacity. So we dumped it down to whatever would get us that capacity. And we noticed 2 things. One, the clientele base, when you start to get around $30, at least in our area, it starts to get a little bit scary. Because a lot of the customers we noticed are a lot more needy and we're having to spend more time. We're getting a lot more callbacks. And so when we dipped down to that $30 range, that's when things started to get really hectic because there were so many people accepting estimates that we just hit capacity and scaled, and we didn't do it route densely. So we kind of did it backwards compared to what like everybody's doing now with like the instant quotes and all that stuff, where it's like, okay, cool, drop the price to $30, get into a neighborhood, get 4 or 5 people on the street. We weren't doing that. We were literally like spider webbed across like 3 cities trying to do this, and we just literally wanted to hit capacity. So it did work. I'd say probably 15% of those people stayed after we did a price raise. For the most part, the people that did stay are probably some of the best clients we have now because they did winter services with us all year, that type of stuff. But if we were to do it again, I would probably only do it in those tiny, tiny subdivisions. And I don't know, back and forth. Like if you can hit 3 yards an hour and charging $30 an hour, you're still at $90 an hour. You're going to be hustling, right? But I feel like if you're trying to break into a neighborhood and then you just raise the price incrementally 5 to 7% a year, or even 10%, people are still going to stay because you just have to get them on the hook and show up consistently, do all that, and it's going to be an easy win-win. Obviously, going down to like $20 is going to be insanity, but if you drop down to that and still could somehow manage the 2.5 to 3 people per hour, you're still around your hourly rate and you're not having to move the truck. It just depends on the clientele base that now you're getting, because that when you get 35, 40, 45 as your minimums, you kind of start to whittle out the people that are going to pick apart your work, because obviously we're not going to be perfect at everything. We're going to miss a piece of grass. We're going to do all that stuff. And so that's kind of the biggest thing that at least I saw for feedback wise, that people would constantly complain that we're the lowest paying. And so once we actually started to increase prices this year, I think we've gotten the most of the callbacks we get are bed maintenance because somebody forgets a weed. None of them are for grass anymore.
You're gonna make Bryce nervous because he just lowered to that below that 30. That's not my intent on asking that question, but immediately as soon as you said that, I thought of Bryce. I was like, oh crap, that's not what I was looking for.
Well, now I feel
So
bad because I
Bryce,
didn't even know that.
you didn't hear that, Bryce. You didn't hear that. I promise
No,
you.
I
You're gonna be
plugged my
fine,
ears.
Bryce.
I plugged my ears.
Okay,
don't
good,
worry.
good.
And not necessarily saying it's a bad thing. It's just like I feel like if you're gonna do it at that pace, it's more of a branding play than a profit play. Because like all you have to do is get on the property, people see the name, see the face, and you do good work, and then you can incrementally just increase prices in that neighborhood like immediately. And you can even do, like Mike says, where you can do 2 price wages in the same year. You may lose people, but you still get huge access to the neighborhood. It's just it really depends on like your risk analysis on your hourly ratio that you want to take a hit on is what I would look at personally. Like if you're still making $80 to $90 an hour, even $70 an hour, but you've got 10, 15 clients in that neighborhood, like it's really just gonna dense. As long as it's dense, like if you don't have to move the truck, whatever makes sense, and then you can
Yeah,
just
that's
raise.
really what we're working on because we're trying to fill the capacity, like what you said. So we're trying to get to our second. We're trying to get 2 people in a mow truck, and I think we're starting to get a whole lot better of route density, especially with our name going on. Like we have several clients like where we have like 6 or 7 in one neighborhood, and they're all like 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. So they're anywhere between that $39 to like $46 range. And you can knock out, like you said, you're going to hustle, but you can knock out 2.5, 3 of those an hour. So I think if you're going to double up trucks, like what we're trying to do, like what you said you were trying to do last year, like fill the capacity, you have no choice but to get dense or but to make those deals to do that because the worst case scenario is we go up to 40% on P for P. Like that would be like worst case scenario, I think. So we always have a caveat, but yeah, I was just curious about that because I was like, I should have done that. I should have done something similar to that.
Yeah, because the only reason I shouldn't say the only reason, one of the big reasons why we did it is because we needed to just get exposed and exposure and be on properties and be on lawns and show that we know how to mow the lawns. Because like at the end of the day, like the property cleanups, you can, well, in our area, you can get property cleanups all day long. You can like somebody needs a tree trim, somebody needs a bush trim, somebody needs mulch, gravel, whatever. But the harder part is getting the recurring. And it's like if you want to be risky and take on that type of stuff, then of course you probably want to lower those prices and get on reoccurring, and it's going to be less wear and tear on the guys, the vehicles, all that stuff. So if you're charging a little cheaper, the real big headache I feel like you'd probably have is just the clientele, if you do have the clientele that would cause that issue. But that's where I guess screening the people right away and understanding like kind of where those people are at and really starting to kind of ask those really intricate questions of people like the first time you show up, maybe call them or whatever. It does take more time up front, but at least you can kind of tell like, okay, is this client going to be great, or do we have to send you need a personal gardener email, right? So it's like it just depends on those type of situations, I guess.
Cool. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate it. And to the recurring thing, I think that's across the board. It's just more of a slower pace growth, like just in general, because like there's so many guys that just cut grass. And so I could see 100% like price can be the number one thing with mowing. Like, yeah, if you have like a shoot blocker or whatever, that can help not throw stuff in the mulch, but ultimately it comes down to price most of the time on mowing, and just getting your foot in the door is a big deal. So I'll finish this out real quick because we did get to 8 o'clock. If you have to go, like that's completely fine. Just drop off. I will send the recording of both of them. My wife can like edit that stuff, so she'll like put it together and like cut out the first little bit and whatever. So hopefully it'll look cool, and then I'll post it on the Facebook group as well. But so for Bloomington, we are in profit mode. Obviously, I have a general manager running that location now. We do have 3 trucks. 2 of them are ramp rack, and then 1 is a landscaping truck. We've got a dump trailer and a trailer. So if he needs to, like a utility trailer. So if he needs to go mow with that 3rd truck, they can. But otherwise, it's pretty much always hooked up to the dump truck or dump trailer doing projects. Currently, we have 3 guys in the field, and then my general manager. So he's spending quite a bit of time doing estimates, and there's been a pretty good learning curve as far as management side of things are concerned and scheduling. So he's been kind of working through that. The goal for Bloomington, as far as what Kyle wants, is $650,000 in revenue. We did 500,000 last year, but we were pretty heavy on the project side, as well as doing 150,000 in snow. So we've really tried to focus on the recurring revenue side, and then upsell them throughout the summer. Usually they're good for $300-400 bush trimming or mulch job, and then usually, another $200-250 in the fall for a fall cleanup. So we're really focused on the recurring side just because we are in growth. So we are spending marketing money, even though we're not, technically growth mode. We are trying to get our recurring revenue up. So that's our main focus. Kyle's done an outstanding job. This is his first full month where every job on the schedule minus the mowing was all due to him selling it. So he's actually doing he did $48,250 for the month of April so far that's on the schedule. That comes out to about 475 budgeted hours. We sent 106 estimates and our close ratio is 54%, which is right where I want to see it for growth mode. I don't want it any higher than that. Otherwise, we need to raise prices, and any lower than that, I'll be nervous because there's not enough work on the schedule. So our difficulties, the biggest thing for me with Bloomington was just getting out of the way. There's been a couple of times where I know Bloomington has been behind, so I went back and tried to help the location, whether it was doing 20 estimates before 10 o'clock in the morning because I started at 6 to get them caught up on those. Or I worked an entire Friday because a guy called out sick, another guy went home early, and so I went and did a 12 budgeted hour mulch job. Me doing that is kind of a buyout for Kyle, and I don't want that to be his MO, where if he gets in a pinch, just call Dustin, he'll just drop what he's doing. In the last week or two, that has not even been an option because Champaign is ramped up quite a bit. So I've just been in Champaign 100% of the time this week, and haven't even really been around to help Bloomington other than their morning meeting on Monday. So that's probably been the biggest difficulty, is me letting go. I did not expect it to be that difficult. And then let's see, my book that I've been listening to, I just finished the Goggins Never Finished one, which Bryce had mentioned earlier. And then I just started one of the Jocko books. I don't know, they're all generally the same. So that's the book I'm listening to now. And I have something that you guys have to buy. So my sister, for my birthday, this is my wife's cup, but it's called the Brumate, BRUMAT. So I'm a big coffee guy. This keeps me to 1 coffee a day. And this is steaming hot by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And it is definitely the move. It's what you need. It's also a koozie. So you can take the lid off, and the lid's impressively tight. But yeah, so definitely go buy one of those. I have no idea what they cost because mine was free. Mine's also black and not pink. But that is definitely the move, and everyone should go buy one right now. I think they're on Amazon. So that is all that we have. So one thing I did want to go over, because I got a lot out of it. I have 3 pages of notes from everybody talking, and I didn't even write notes for 2 of the guys. So I think it was valuable. I know I've tried to do this once a month in a couple of other groups. It just seems like it's a lot, and I don't want this to ever feel like a drag, you have to come to it. I kind of like it where it's once a quarter, because a lot's happening in the business over the course of 3 months. Are there any opinions on doing it once a quarter, once a year, twice a year, every month? Does anybody have absolutely not? Are you not interested in doing it again? You're not going to hurt my feelings. I ultimately, if someone's not getting something out of it, there's no sense in doing it. And so any opinions or comments on that?
Once a quarter or twice a year?
Yeah, twice a year. And I would also say that the summer and the winter are probably good options in terms of people just being a little more present and able to attend, because those generally are quieter times, at least in our market.
Yep. Twice a year. What's everybody else got?
Nobody else wants to deal with you, apparently.
I think it works out great. I think the timing is great. Next time we won't show up late again.
Well,
no P for P for you.
Yeah, and my shit MC skills are really showing for everybody on running out of video time, so I'll have to upgrade my thing, I think. But cool. Anybody else? Questions?
Dustin, I got a question.
Yeah,
Did you finance or cash your second location?
cash. I don't take any money out of the business.
What made you do like cash to open one location rather than maybe saying cash heavy and financing like 2 locations and being a regional manager of now 3?
Proof that I can do it a second time.
Then
The first
you gotta go for that
location,
three-peat.
yeah, that first location that I built, I feel like I kind of fell into it. Like I knew the market really well. And I'm very comfortable here. Like I grew up here. The second location, I have learned a ton from. Like not living in the second location, for lack of a better word, it's a bitch. I drive an hour one way every day. So 2 hours in the truck. If you forget something, like our shop is down there, but like I forgot my laptop one day and I hadn't dispatched any jobs. So like I was on the phone with command, like, hey, just dispatch those to me. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, just help me out because I'm not like it's just it has been a learning curve.
Yeah, so I've obviously it's a while away, so I haven't put in too much thought, but the thought of opening a second to do what you said, like prove you can do it again, which is so true. Like I grew up here, I'm in my hometown. It's so much easier in your hometown. One, like me, I'm in a town of 12,000 people. You post one thing on Facebook, everyone has seen it in my town. Like, but the thought of like, going to Fort Wayne, which would be a bigger market, to drive 45 minutes there and back every day. And like you said, you forget something. I don't know. It makes me like,
It's a
part of me,
mother.
it makes me like, should I wait till I can start like 2 and then be a regional manager of 3?
So ultimately, like starting the second location, I knew that in no way could I have Bloomington fail. And so making sure that Kyle was up to speed, which Kyle's like a great GM. Like I've talked with Chuck after his coaching calls and like working with him and alongside of him. He's fantastic, but he takes like way longer to figure things out because he's just not on the same wavelength as an owner. And so I haven't been able to grow Champagne until recently because there were hiccups that I was constantly having to be like, dude, why are you working from 5 a.m. to 11 o'clock at night when there's literally not enough work on the schedule for 3 guys? Like you're taking way too long to dispatch. You're taking way too long to schedule estimates or to schedule accepted estimates. And like, it just takes him forever to figure out the system. And then it's like, I had to tell him to fire his first guy. So there's a lot of stuff that you have to be constantly like tracking and on top of stuff. And so the learning curve and what I've learned just from dealing with Kyle as a GM will help me when I hire a GM for Champagne, when Kyle goes and starts his own location for me and I go start another one, like those should be much more seamless because I kind of already know what to expect. And if I had to have a GM go start a location from scratch, I'm going and doing my first one from scratch again and have Kyle struggling figuring out how to do, just name it, just the learning curve we all had with service autopilot. I was ready to like end Champagne about 4 weeks into it because I'm like, there's no way, like he's not going to be able to figure it out. Now, luckily, like Chuck has talked me down, Lee has talked me down off the wall, but it's been a learning curve. It's exactly what I expected. Exactly. Like I knew it was going to be hard.
So one thought I had was making Kobe GM of the Vanward location for the second half of this year. So like starting in July, August-ish or whatever, where it's slower. Obviously, there's still like that fall rush of, fall cleanup, stuff like that, but slower where I can kind of, babysit him for 6 months of the year where, I don't have another location. I don't have any other responsibilities besides making sure that in this 6 months, we get through all his hiccups, all that stuff. Going into spring rush the next year, he should, obviously there will always be questions and hiccup stuff, but he won't be a newbie in spring rush. Like He
Yeah.
already has 6 months under his belt. That way, maybe he doesn't need my attention as much. Maybe just, once a week, touch base, whatever, maybe a text here and there, answering certain questions, where maybe I could now put most of my focus on 2 new locations of being a regional manager of 3. So I wouldn't have to do 1 location, drive 45 minutes there, forget my laptop, and have to drive 45 minutes back.
Yeah, I think that if I could do it over again, every time Kyle came to me with a question, I would just ask him, what do you think? That would have solved like 90% of the issues. Like, hey, what do you think? That empowers him to make a decision. That makes him answer what he thinks. And then literally, like, Chuck told me to do this like 2 weeks ago, and Kyle's going to watch this because I told him I was going to email it. So he's going to see all this, and he'll see, like, as of 2 weeks ago, I just started literally, like, he would come to me with a question, and I just say, what do you think about it? And then just be completely quiet. He's got to come up with an idea. And then I don't think I've changed anything he said, because he knows the answer. He just wants validation, but I want to hear him say it first. And then I'll just be like, yeah, that's what I would do generally.
Let me add
Yeah,
on to that
Logan
one.
knows too. He's got 2 locations.
I think, okay, so for what we did when we first kind of put Brandon into a manager position was about a month before we went to training in January. Brandon and I started working on the computer, learning service autopilot, learning how to work with command center and how to do all the things that it really takes to operate the managerial end of it. We started doing a lot of that stuff a month before training. And then we went to training, and he learned a lot of the, the rest of it, filled in the blanks, or, the gaps in a lot of the other parts of it. I think that first month was super valuable because he didn't go to training like most of us did with, trying to wrap our head around this crazy learning curve about service autopilot, the P4P app, all the things that we had to do. So I think that made a really big benefit, but, okay, I'll make it quick. But last week, I had to go back to Columbus to help mow, just like you were saying, Dustin. I'm putting out fires kind of with Brandon. And Brandon still had to work on Saturday. Most of that was attributed to the fact that our routes were just chaos. Now, I take for granted, and I'm sure most of you guys do as well, like, I'm good at routing. I know how to route these jobs. I know where they should go. I know what mowers these guys need to take exactly on the nose. Brandon doesn't, because he never had any experience knowing how to route anything. So, we hopped into spring where he's trying to route like 120 budgeted hours, and guys are running over here, running over there for no apparent reason when, I know the right way to do it. So I think, to kind of further on your question, having a few months, at least 1 or 2, when you're actually doing a full mowing route makes a crazy difference, because you have a lot of that knowledge just going into the spring, and you can kind of go through a lot of those hardships in the fall and not have it be such a chaotic environment in like the spring. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. So pretty much, just make it quick, and obviously I can text you guys both tomorrow, but do you feel that last year, if you're capable or whatever, I don't know your guys' situation was last year, to put them as GMs the last 6 months a year, that this year would be a smoother transition for them? Do you think there would be much improvement of having the last 6 months where it's kind of the easier 6 months than the first 6 months, rather than me starting him in January or some?
I know
assistant to the regional manager.
Yeah, I know for me that, like, I would be constantly in his way and constantly just do stuff for him if I was around. And so pushing him just like kind of off the ledge and like, hey, just figure it out, as well as getting me out of the way. That's the only way I could do it for myself and for him.
Another hard part too is you're going to spend 20K in salaries over the winter if you start training in the fall, and then he's trying to manage a location that's not making, doing 10, 20, maybe 25K in revenue, and probably negative in profit or break even in profit. It's going to be really difficult to make that float. So, I think
Bryce, you should also look into a blackout week. You should also look into a blackout week, like where you just leave for 3 or 4 days and see where the holes are and where you and Kobe can make it better.
We're going to get kicked, boys. I appreciate it.
See you guys next time.
Thank you all.
Take care, guys.
Bye.